Hello, Cozy Detectives, and welcome to the Blanket Fort Files. I'm Joy,
And I'm Larissa.
and we're here to report on all things comfy and cozy in 2025.
Happy New Year!
Fireworks, fireworks.
Have it.
Except for it's December.
Yeah, we're
So,
quite a
future
bit
us.
of ways away.
Woohoo! How did you celebrate? Did you love it? Let us know in the comments.
Hopefully it
because we're
was
not
super
there yet.
cozy.
Hopefully it was super cozy, super cozy. What have you been up to though this week? Oh, actually, you know what? We haven't talked. Oh, maybe we did once before, but we didn't like officially talk about it. Your advent calendar, because I am drinking
We did.
today's.
We talked about that
You
last
did?
episode. Because
don't
I
even
think you had
remember.
your special chai one.
Oh, I did.
Mhm.
This is afternoon tea, which I like flipped
Ooh.
over because the previous day had the like notes on the back of like the flavor notes. And then actually today's was on the front. So I was like, well, oops. Oh, well. But I really like it. I was like, it's
I
afternoon.
meant to ask you, so I'm glad we're
Yeah.
doing this like on pod so we get
Redo.
content. But what was the Piccadilly one that you had recently?
It was, shoot. I don't, was it chamomile? It was, no, it wasn't chamomile because they're all black teas. I don't remember the exact flavor of it, but I actually really liked it. I posted the story behind that being like, oh, okay, duh, this is what it is. Because I was like, what does Piccadilly like?
Taste
What's
like?
the flavors on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I just
Let
think
me,
of like Piccadilly Circus and the
me
Piccadilly
too.
like Two Blind. And that
Me
was like
too.
when we've stayed at the same hotel both times. We went to London and it was off the Piccadilly line. So we're always like,
Aww.
this is the Piccadilly line to Colchester.
Cute. I know. I remember the first time getting on like the New York subway and then the tube, and it was just like, how do you navigate this? But then as soon as you learn it, you're like, oh, this
Yeah,
is so
it's
easy. Just
easy.
pick the end line. Like it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. But I don't remember it. I'll have to put it in the show notes. So check the notes of that, and I'll have what the flavor profile of that was. The thing that I'm also thinking is like I should like star on the back the ones that I'm liking or something, because I feel like, because I'm like, oh, maybe after this I'll like go buy the teas, but I'm like, how am I going to remember 30 days in whether or not I liked that tea or not? So I feel
That's
like I
true.
should
Well, at
like,
least you can buy yours because most of
oh, are yours
mine,
not?
yeah, most of ours are just like exclusive to the advent calendar. Because I think I talked about this.
For mine? Oh
No, for mine. Yours, I think most of yours you can get in store because like you had the
Oh,
English rose, and
yeah.
I've had that one in real life. But
Okay.
mine, the jam ones, they make it just for the advent calendar. So last year I was very disappointed because the last day was this special like Christmas spice
Yeah.
jam that I loved so much, and it is not available anywhere.
That's crazy.
I
I feel like you were
know.
telling me this. Now I'm like remembering. I feel like we said this last time on the pod about like the honey. And I'm like, okay, that makes more sense to me now too, how that was so controversial. Because if you're like, I get only these in this time, I don't want honey.
Right.
But oh, snap. Is it like a 50-50 split between what you can buy and what you can't? Or it's like 90% you can't?
I think it's mostly you can't because the
That's
flavors for the
wild.
advent calendar, like some are pretty simple, like the I told you about my Keen's Quince fusion on the
I wasn't
first
going to out
day.
you.
But so that's like a one note or one flavor like note, but all of the other ones it's like orange, yuzu, and honey. And I feel like the ones that they sell in the stores are just like raspberry, strawberry, blueberry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because yours yesterday was like that, like 3 or 4 note one, and it sounded
Yeah.
so good.
It
What,
was so good.
you liked that? Which
Mhm.
one's been your favorite, you think, so far? I mean,
I
we're
think the one
like
I
a week
had
in.
yesterday, we're only on like day 6, so
Yeah.
and I haven't had my one today, so I've
We'll
only had 5,
see.
but the one so far was the purple fig cinnamon spread.
Yum. That
That's
was
super good.
yesterday's.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Because I was like, I remember like specifically yesterday's, I was like, ooh, that sounds really
it was
good.
really good.
That
So
sounds really good. I think I either like Piccadilly or this one's afternoon tea. It's jasmine and oh, cardamom. Oh, okay.
ooh,
Maybe I like it in a this. Maybe
controversy.
I don't like the like eating of it. I don't
Maybe.
know. Weird.
Or
Maybe the
maybe
jasmine's covering it. I don't know.
yeah, it could be that, or maybe it's just like used
Not.
properly.
Yeah, I was gonna say not aggressive.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just like overhanded with it.
Or maybe just like if Americans just like don't have high quality cardamom, maybe the British have better quality. Who knows?
So true. I would believe it. They're very particular about their teas, and I love it. I even looked up. So I've been using. Sorry, I have like 3 ketchup things. Oh, I want to get to my other ketchup thing, but I've been using a stovetop kettle, and I love it. And I feel like it adds that extra. Like it's not my 2%, but it'd be like the perfect 2% because it
Yeah.
adds that extra whimsy. It does whistle, which I think is amazing. And it's like a really fancy schmancy one, but I got it at a Goodwill for like $5, but I think it's like $1,000 tea kettle. Like I looked it up.
Wow.
I'm like, oh snap, how do I take care of this thing? So I
Yeah.
Googled it, but
Well, I guess that means you shouldn't put it on your head then.
I guess that's true. Yes, I will not be cutting this and placing this one on my head as a little elephant, which we learned in a
Yeah.
previous. If you know, you know.
Yeah, no frog facts. Rock
No.
facts?
Rock facts, yeah.
I've only
Give me a
seen it
frog
once.
fact.
So. I said frog and I was like, that's wrong.
So cute. But there is a frog. George Washington and everybody else, Thomas Jefferson and everybody else. But I got my slime in.
Oh, where do you order it from?
So technically, this is my second slime I got in. I got another slime from what was supposed to be a small business, and I don't think it was. I think it was drop shipping and like something.
No.
But I got this, and I feel very confident and comfortable talking about this because I really like it, and I bought it with my own money. So it was a an Instagram sent to me via the interwebs. A slime obsidian is the name of the brand. And by means sent to me, like I saw it on there, but I bought all this with my own money. But I'm gonna open it because one, it smells. So I got it's December, so I got it. It's milk and cookies. It's a little set.
Love that.
And so this one is like more like almost dropped it. That was so scary. More like a classic slime where it's like not textured. And I really actually am having fun with it, which makes me feel kind of fun and kind of like a 5-year-old. I don't care. If you play with slime, it's enjoyable. I'll drop it everywhere. I'm so scared.
As long as you don't have carpet in there, do you?
I do, but I've been so careful. I haven't dropped it or done anything like that. And I'm really scared because the milk one is white. I actually like the scent of it. I don't know if...
Does it smell like milk?
Kind of. It smells like a very sweet milk.
So more maybe like vanilla, because I'm like, I hate the smell of milk.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. It actually like gives me vibes somehow of Disney. I don't know if Disney like uses the same scent for something. I don't know. It just like very similar to me. But then I also got cookies with it. And so this one is textured. I'm not going to open this one because this feels hard to put in, but it's textured. It's got little baubles in it and little like chocolate chips, quote unquote. It's fun. It's fun to play with, and I've been enjoying it, and I have not dropped it. Although I am starting to slowly combine the milk and cookies, meaning like I don't want to combine them. That seems like I don't want to do that just personally. You can, obviously, but keeping them separate. But like I'll like play with the cookies and then I'll put it away and then I'll go to like the milk and I'll be like, no, it's on my hands. So,
you could do like maybe like a mini third slime.
I could. Yeah, the milk and cookies. So I don't know. I'm interested in the texture. I totally get why people love the scooping now, which I also love. Because I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that it's not a bad thing, but I didn't realize you get like a smaller amount. So I'm like, oh yeah, duh. No wonder we like enjoyed the scoops. Anyway, those are my catch-up things, and I have a really fun 2%, which is also coming eventually with a prop too. But that's my fun things. Oh, and I've been playing my game again. I hadn't played Coral Island, which we did a case file on.
Yeah,
I hadn't played that since like June, and I was like, you know what? I want to play this again, and I've been really enjoying it. So I've been
fun. Yeah, I did a little bit of Nancy Drew like a week or so ago. So.
Yeah, right. That's so funny. Good timing. Did you get farther into that one, or you replayed a previous one?
Yeah, it was the one that I had worked on some. I didn't finish it yet. I don't know why. I just like, it's not necessarily hard, but like if I don't, I'm in the mood to play, but then I don't finish it. And now I'm like, well, I'm not in the mood right now. So I just need to like get back. I just feel like I have so many things to do.
I know. I think that's the thing, but little bits at a time and finding fun times. And I feel like it actually goes into our case files.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a really good transition.
Right? Because it kind of works at it. And I didn't do it purposefully, but I feel like it's one of those things where like once you like create a goal or you think about a thing, it just kind of like flows well.
Yeah. So today, do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
So today we're not really doing New Year's resolutions because Joy and I, that's not really our vibe. We wanted to talk more about, I guess, cozy lifestyles, cozy ways of living. We each have like a specific um, philosophy, culture, way of life from different cultures that we're going to be talking about today and kind of doing our usual case file deep dive. So we wanted this to be a way just to remind you to still be cozy in the new year. We always feel like, oh, you have to have the perfect New Year's resolution list and you have to like completely change your life.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
we're
And
not
you're a
here for that.
failure if you don't, which is the
Yeah.
other thing that is not true.
So, do you
But
want to get into yours?
yeah, mine's a very specific, which makes perfect sense for me, but very specifically focused around coffee. So mine today is Fika, which is Swedish. It is actually, I thought this was very interesting, but it's taken from their word coffee, which is Kafi. And if you flip everything around, it's Fika.
Oh,
I know.
that would have been helpful when we were struggling to know the word for
I'm like
it.
looking up Flicka. I'm like, what am I doing wrong over here? But that word itself first was used in the 20th century, but the tradition itself started in the 18th century. And it's really interesting because coffee was banned and then put back in as being fine. And then was banned, I think it was banned over like 5 times in Sweden, which is wild.
Wow.
And again, if you are Swedish and you're listening to this, please let us know more because it was actually kind of tricky to find the history behind this because there's different like thought processes on it and different ways that I found things kind of connected together. And it's one of them's kind of funny. So when it was originally started, it was kind of because coffee just in the 18th century, it was just such a like a rare thing. It was more of a luxury product.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you couldn't afford that, more like workers and things like that were more like during like the workday or something like that, they would drink alcohol versus coffee, which is wild. Yeah, which is so funny because the first video that I saw was like when Fika was introduced, it reduced workplace like problems, meaning like they like hurt themselves or something by like X amount of percent. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you switch coffee for alcohol, I feel like that I feel like that would change things.
Although
Um,
technically, like quote unquote, coffee is still like a for like a substance. It's technically like a stimulant.
yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
it is.
interesting.
Right? One of the things that is also interesting. So even though I think personally in the Fika side of it, I tend more towards the coffee, but it is an interesting thing to note that throughout time, it's kind of changed where like it could be tea or coffee.
Hmm.
The way that I've heard it the most is also in really strong connection with like pastries or like little cakes or things like that. I
Mhm.
heard one person say that you could do fika without like a snack, but I it feels like that was like a pretty rare thought process
Yeah.
from Swedish people on it. Um, but I thought this was also interesting because in Sweden, they're more likely to have like for breakfast, more like sandwiches or a little bit more savory items.
Mhm.
Whereas in like, cause I'm like, well, why don't other countries do this? So they kind of do, but they kind of don't. But like in Italy or in France, you could have a pastry for
Yeah.
breakfast in the morning. Now, yes, you can have savory things anywhere, including America, but I think also the idea of having the savory first and then kind of having your break and then having your sweet treat and your coffee or your tea is really cool. I think also the biggest thing about Fika is the community aspect of it. So it's really common
Yeah.
to have it in work. And even if you're not working, you can have it at the work environment. It is in one video I saw, it was literally protected by law, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Right. So at work at 11 and at 3 you can have fika and
Mhm.
some so it's kind of confusing and I'm wondering if the farther we're getting into the 21st century the less maybe common in the workplace, the maybe the less common daily because one gentleman was talking about how he really likes just having fika on Friday
Mhm.
where like you can just have like a little bit of a break before the weekend, but then some people were saying fika is meant to be kind of a daily thing. So I don't know if it's as common in the everyday work environment to do this. And the thing I couldn't quite tell, but I think we can kind of estimate depending on the items involved in fika. I think it's about an hour
Mhm.
or like at least 30 minutes because with fika it's at least two people and you're sitting around having your coffee or tea and then you have up to like 7 different pastries and sandwiches. And I think traditionally it's eating 7 types of cakes. And then there's a few more savory options that can be in it
Mm-hmm.
now. But I thought this was really cool because I'm like, oh, I kind of do that in general. Is you eat it in a particular order. So
Mm-hmm.
you can eat it from I think the traditional way is to eat it from least fancy to most fancy.
Ooh.
But I've heard people also say they eat it from like their least favorite to their
Yeah.
favorite.
I feel like that's with any meal. I'm like, oh my gosh, save
Yeah,
the best for last.
right. I just thought it was cute that that's a part of the actual tradition of it. And one of the most popular, and I think the classic treat to have with it is a cinnamon bun.
Ooh.
Right. Make sure the cinnamon bun is in there.
Yeah.
Also, the coffee cups now are larger, and the buns themselves are about 3 times what they were 50 years ago, which is
Wow.
wild. But there is fewer range of cookies, is what I saw somebody talk about, and
Mm.
you can kind of do it a few different ways. So, because it's so ingrained into the culture of things, there's the traditional where you can kind of walk down the traditional route of it, or it's also kind of like you could go to a third wave coffee shop and just kind
Mm-hmm.
of hang out with friends. The thing that I watched that did feel a little different is in that newer, and it's not like it's a bad thing, but in that newer kind of that third wave coffee style, it feels like you could kind of transport that anywhere. Whereas in like the more traditional setting of it, it felt very Swedish.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you have the opportunity to visit, it'd be super fun to do both of them.
Yeah.
If you have a few days to be there and kind of experience that. And then also in regards to Fika itself, what makes me think it's that 30 minutes to an hour, because nobody would specifically that I saw specifically set a time frame of how long a Fika is.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very not culturally appropriate to say no to fika. so if
Okay.
someone so someone's like, hey, let's go, like, I don't know if you use it as a verb or not, but in my brain you use it as a verb. That it is kind of like you're not wanting to socialize if you say no to that.
Mm-hmm.
um which I found very interesting, and I'm like, yeah, like it's like someone inviting you to coffee and they're like, no thank you. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. But since that's kind of the one, like the way that I was thinking of combining that to everyday life is like, if you're not in Sweden, is either if you have the opportunity to do that, kind of like purposefully connecting with people versus like being on our
Mm-hmm.
phones at lunch at work, or if you're at home taking a little bit of a fika, just to kind of clear your brain of, majority of us are on computer screens all day, so kind of clearing your brain
Yeah.
of that, and getting to connect or chat with people, I thought was really a nice way to incorporate that. Another thing that I actually looked up, and I think it's just because I was looking up like Swedish things. And then this one Swedish YouTuber, Cecilia Blomdahl, Blomdahl. She lives in one of the most northern inhabitable places on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
which is wild. It's Svalbard, I think is how
Oh,
you
I
say
might
it.
get her on like Instagram Reels because she does little updates like when they have the time of like no sun
Yeah.
and then the time when they can only like always get sun. So
Yes.
yeah, that city name sounds familiar. If it's not her, it's
Yeah.
someone else does a lot
Oh,
of
I'm sure.
content there too.
I would presume it is her because there one thing that she said just kind of, and I don't know how this is a thing, but she said that nobody's born on Svalbard.
Mm.
It's hard to say for me. So you have to like choose to live there. So I'm presuming that she's probably like the main person there that's doing online type of like
Mm-hmm.
job things, in regards to like social media. But she was talking about, and I felt like this was kind of a good connection to it, the Nordic sleep method and kind of
Oh,
different ways.
mm-hmm.
I thought that was
It's
kind of
so
cool.
fascinating to me. I've seen that at
Yeah.
work because, like, there's that, but there's also like specifically for babies where they'll spend like an
Yes.
hour or so outside in the winter.
Yes, yes. So I have that written down in my notes. So there's a few different things that she suggested. Now these are all from her video, but I thought it was so fascinating. Is the biggest thing that she does is air out your bedding. And I feel personally like this is very locational specific, because
Yeah.
especially in like the springtime, if I did that, I'd be
be
sneezing all
covered in
night.
pollen. Yeah.
It would
I
not be a good night's sleep.
yeah, I think of that, but then also, like, I mean, I'm still in the suburbs, but especially city people, like, it would be so much
Yeah.
smog. I feel like that's really good for just, like, clean mountain
Yes.
fresh air.
Yes, because she was like, "It smells like fresh snow," and I'm like, "Mine would not smell like fresh snow." Not like I'm in the middle of the city, but, like, there's like, especially if it's windy, there's enough, like, nature around where it could, like, get it dusty versus, like, cleaning it off, and that's the part
Yeah.
of but if it was, like, a really heavy snow, then, yeah, I would think about maybe doing that because then it's, like, everything's covered in snow, so even if there's a wind, it's not going dustify my thing. But I also thought this was very interesting that when they get duvet covers and kind of like your regular duvet for your bed, if there's two people in the bed, you each get your individual duvet, which I thought was very interesting.
Mm,
So that if you
yeah.
like want to regulate the temperature of it, it's like your side, your section. And that I guess from what she said is a very Swedish thing. So I thought that that was interesting, kind of in the connection with Fika about how it's a like specific purposeful time for socialization.
Mhm.
um, because going back to a few of the different like people I was listening to talk about it, they were saying that like this one girl specifically said if we didn't have fika, like that's the socialization at work. And I think that's so interesting how if this society, like there's a meme of Swedish people, quote unquote, waiting for the bus, and they're all like 5 or 6 feet apart, just kind of like all the way down the line.
Mhm.
And I think it's just kind of like the cultural thing of your individual space. And she was saying that that even kind of connects over to like even your bedding of even if you have
Yeah.
two people in the bed, you like have your own individual cover. And so I felt like that was kind of cool to have that built into a society, like the social aspect built in, because I feel like it gives that freedom of like, okay, we're sitting over tea or coffee and our treats, and then we can just kind of talk about things specifically, not work as well.
Yeah. I really like that it's such a part of the culture, and
Yeah.
I'll get into that a little bit too with mine, but, like, how here, like, our work socializing
Mm-hmm.
happens after, like, we have a work happy hour, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of hard because it's like, "Alright, you already work a full day." Most of the time, I'm too tired to, like, go do the socializing after, but if it's, like, built in as part of it, just because working
Yeah.
here is so part of our culture that it's
Yeah.
really hard to do stuff outside of that, and I really like other countries. It's also why they're rated on, like, happiness scales higher than we are, because that they, like, make that a priority.
Yeah, and also kind of I think the lens to the not burnt out side of it, because I think what also can very easily happen is because you're just expected to like look at this computer screen for 8 hours a day. Your brain just like is like, no, thank you, don't like. And so I think it can lend itself to people being like, okay, I just need a break. And
Yeah.
when it's not like a structured thing potentially put in of like, okay, like I know this break is coming, kind of like when you have a vacation where it's like, okay, I know this vacation is coming. I can really focus on work now. I
Mhm.
think it kind of mess with your productivity just in and of itself with that as well. And then a few of the other things that she was talking about. So in the time period that she was recording this, it was called midnight sun season, which I was like, oh no. It was the time of year where the sun doesn't set. So that's
Mm.
between April 19th and August 26th. Technically, the sun never sets. That is wild
I
to
know,
me.
anytime when I get, like, her start of the next season, like, where it doesn't set
Yeah.
or it, like, never rises, that feels like that's, like, my passage of time. I'm like, "We're already in summer, like, where did the time go? Where is the what year is it?"
Right? Honestly. And she has a dog, and she's talking about how the dog also, like, for obvious reasons, gets so confused because, like, okay, it's daylight. Like, why have you not fed me? And it's like, nope, it's
Yeah.
actually like 4 a.m. Like, you're not ready yet. Um, but a few of the other things that she does is light blocking curtains and eye
Mhm.
mask, which we've used as a tip before. Because I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like that was the thing that she even said that was a huge help in the time where it's always sun. And then I didn't think about this, but I think this could even apply to places, I mean, obviously, like not as far north in the world, but places where it's really, really dark in the morning. She has one of those alarm clocks that kind of wakes you up with the
Oh,
sun.
yeah.
And I think that could be really cool because that's supposed to be part of our circadian rhythm of things of like, okay, when the sun's up or when the sun's down, we're kind of like,
Yeah.
our bodies are meant to flow with that. So I just thought that was really cool and a good idea. I haven't tried one myself, but if our cozy detectives have, let me know. I'd be very curious to
Yeah, I
see.
know there's one. They're kind of expensive, which is kind of why I
Mm.
haven't done it. But I know Hatch is one that's Hatch if you want to sponsor us. But they have you can set different like sounds to wake up to, and they do have a
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls specific Lala option.
Love that. Love that. She was using the like birds chirping instead of the light
Mm-hmm.
because obviously the light's already there. So, and she's wearing the eye mask. So,
Yeah.
but those are Fika slash sleep tips from, I think so this is where I got kind of confused. And this is just Joy's poor geography of things. I looked it up on the map and it's an island super far north of the Scandinavian countries.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which country it technically, if it's connected to
Belongs
a
to,
country.
yeah.
I think it's Sweden from the way that she was making it sound, but that could just be her saying she's Swedish and me getting confused. So I'm not sure which Scandinavian country for the sleep tips or if it's like pretty common for all of them just because of like the location of things.
Yeah.
But a different one to transition. Larissa, do you want to tell us about your case file? Because that's kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. So I'm doing Hygge. I try to find how they say it, like, because obviously in
I think
America
it's hookah.
we say it, but I think they have like an extra like to it, not to sound like I'm hawking a loogie, but I think they have that added in.
Like a
So like,
hookah kind of
yeah,
a deal.
some people were like who, and then some people were more like huh when they were pronouncing it.
Mm.
So I think just
It's just not
depending,
Hygge.
yeah.
That's the one it's not for sure.
I so this originates from Denmark and also Norway, so kind of geographically similar. And there's actually a lot of similarities, I think, between these two lifestyles
Mm.
that we're talking about. I think overall, just good reminders, again, like we said at the beginning, to slow down and just embrace comfort.
Yeah.
So this is more of a concept and a lifestyle, not the lifestyle aspect is up for debate because I tried to find like authentic, like Danish, Denmark viewpoints on this versus maybe like the more Americanized version. So
Ooh, interesting.
some of them were like, yes, this is very much like lifestyle culture. And then other people are like, it's more of just like a general term. So I'll talk on both sides of
Mm.
things. In Norway, though, it's really just a word that they use for cozy comfort things. So I'm like,
I wonder if
wow.
it feels like so ingrained though that I feel like for maybe certain like I don't know, like American culture side of things, it feels so foreign because we I don't know. I don't know how to like phrase that correctly, but I think maybe it could just be so ingrained into like who they are as people that it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
this is just a word, but like to us, we're like groundbreaking.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of looking at it. But essentially, it refers to a form of everyday togetherness. So,
Oh,
and
cute.
that's something I'm going to touch on a lot is that sense of community. And I think that's where Americans kind of lose sight because when we talk about it, it feels very much of just like cozy socks, sitting by a fire. We are
Yeah.
doing it. And it's very like intentional and purposeful
Yeah.
of that sense of togetherness. It's a pleasant and highly valued everyday experience of safety, equality, personal wholeness, and spontaneous social flow.
Ooh.
And yeah, I
It's a
was
cool
like,
phrasing.
I know, I was like, I'm not going to try to paraphrase this because it just sounds so good. But from another little phrasing that I really liked was a cozy, contented mood evoked by comfort.
Mm.
The emphasis on hygge is part of a core part of Danish culture, is kind of more of a recent phenomenon. The term itself popped up around like the 18th century, but it didn't really become this concept
Interesting.
until about the late 20th century. And then it wasn't until the 21st century where it's kind of become this more familiarized concept
Yeah.
internationally.
A fun fact is it
Mhm.
is copyright, that word, because in embroidery, I was like, "Ooh, I could do like living my best hygge life," and I like
Mhm.
looked up the word and it's copyright. So you actually can't write that on
Oh,
things.
which is so interesting
Like it's a
because
concept, like
yeah, because like that's just a word that they use
mhm.
in over there, and like like
Mhm.
I watched this one of the points of like kind of this misconceptions from an actual person who is from Denmark kind of
Cool.
explain that, and I'll go into some of her thoughts, but like it would be like if we copyrighted cozy here, or like
Yeah.
good, like they use it as
Weird.
a term for like goodbye. So if we try to
Oh,
copyright
cute.
goodbye,
Oh, stop.
like
That's so cute. Like, have a
yeah,
cozy day. Like,
exactly.
that's so cute.
Um so, according to the official Visit Denmark website, they
Love.
say that hygge is used in illuminating the Danish soul. And this might be more of like the tourism side of things, but they actually have like a hygge tour in Copenhagen, which is the capital.
Cool.
So, if I ever go, I definitely want to go on that. That sounds really fun.
That's cool.
Um, so kind of what I gathered in terms of kind of our thoughts in the United States versus overall. And again, I saw conflicting information, but in the US, I think we kind of have co opted it as just like doing comfy things. But in Denmark, it's more intentional about having a good time, spending quality time as like essentially the core. And that's what that one YouTuber was trying to explain of like, when she uses, and it's not said hygge, they have like a whole little like phrase kind of with it, but
Yeah.
if she were to say she was doing that with someone, it would kind of be our version of like, oh, we're just chilling, we're just hanging out.
Mm.
More
Like
so,
purposeful time.
yeah, exactly. And something else that I think we just, and we even struggled this when we were trying to plan our episodes of like, oh, fall and winter cozier times. And so some people kind of just associate hygge with just winter. And obviously we're talking about it in winter, but it is meant to be kind of like an all encompassing year round thing. Like if you're
Cool.
enjoying life, if you're spending quality time, like you are participating in hygge. Um, but on the flip side, I did see that, now granted, this is just on Wikipedia, but they said that it's a big part of their culture and that it has actually impacted their online space, video games, and even their jail system, and how they've tried to
Oh,
make it more
interesting.
like they try to incorporate more social aspects into it and make it more
Mm.
of a comfortable experience. So I'm like, well, if that's the case, I feel like that's definitely
Like,
more like philosophy versus just like
yeah.
a saying. Um, so it's more than just being cozy, but kind of really striving for harmony as a community is really the goal of it.
I like that.
And then researchers define it as a restorative practice. And they really emphasize just being committed to it. It's not just something like, I feel like doing hygge today. It's more like an overall kind of general way of life, essentially. And then I know you've read the little book of hygge by
Yeah.
Miek. I put Viking. It's not spelled that way, but it's like Viking, I think is the
Mm.
technical pronunciation, but it's spelled with a W. But I was like, I have to get it right. And it's quote unquote the Hygge Manifesto. And the one YouTuber that I was watching who was a little bit more of like, it's not this big ordeal as Americans make it out. She said that he just used really good marketing to make it seem like it was this whole like lifestyle concept. But
Interesting.
I think there's good reminders in there, and
Yeah.
that there's a good way to like sit and reflect, and like kind of how you worded it of, well, maybe it's more of just a part of every day where you wouldn't stop to think about it. But for us, where we're very individualistic here and very just like rushing all the time, that I think actually sitting down and trying to make our life more like this, it would be more beneficial. Like I said, they're they're rated happier in Denmark. I think they're like usually in like the top 3 countries like of happiness. So they're onto
Yeah.
something there. But he came up with 10 ideals that are key qualities for this life, is specifically kind of a happy life, because that's kind of the goal of hygge. So I just kind of came up with 10 tips for, or not 10 tips for each one, but a tip for kind of each of the 10 principles. But I try to really focus on that togetherness aspect the coziness is part of it, but more so of the togetherness, just because, again, I think we've kind of misconstrued what it means here in America. So the first one was I saw it two things. I saw it as atmosphere and lighting, which obviously go hand in hand. But obviously lighting is very important to me. But I thought about just kind of creating a space in your home for when people come over a visit, especially if you live alone. Like, don't just have one chair. Like, hey, this is the chair for my
Yeah.
friend. And just kind of, I know you've talked about that. It was kind of funny reading more about this. I was like, I feel like Joy really does a good job with this, at least in her tips when we do those, because like being intentional with having people over, not necessarily like you have to entertain, even if it's just like, hey, do you want to come over and have coffee, and or
Yep.
you want to come over and have fika with me.
Yep. Yep.
The second tip was presence. And when you said this, I was like, oh, that is my exact tip. So when you're with someone, like, just put your phone away. Like, you don't have to
Yes.
be checking your
Yeah.
phone, texting other people, or like be in the moment with
Yep.
that person.
Yep. Which
Exactly.
seems like an obvious, but I think it's also something where like it can so easily, like, you get one notification. So even something
Yeah.
where like as simple as a tip as like literally flipping your phone over or leaving it in another room if you're going to be doing something, or leave it in the kitchen if you're having dinner, or just something
Yeah.
like that, where it just because it can so easily just flip back over and you're like, oh wait, I don't even know, like 3 minutes pass and I'm like sitting here just looking at my phone while like
Yeah.
someone's standing over there and you're like, oh man, what am I doing?
Yeah, just being like with that person,
Yeah.
even if it's something, and again, the whole concept is like togetherness, but I think even if you're just by yourself, like, hey, I'm going to do this 5 minutes, no phone,
Yeah.
let me do the dishes, or let me do this task I need to do.
Yep.
The third principle is pleasure. And so I struggled a little bit to come up with something with another person or that sense of community, but I thought it could be really cool if you like got together with a friend and maybe you cooked their favorite meal or your favorite dish together, or maybe
Yeah.
you find like a regular activity that you both enjoy.
Or
um
trying a new recipe, because even if
yeah.
it like I made mac and cheese last night, like from scratch, which seems like
Hmm.
not that impressive, but it was like a fun, like, okay, how does this taste? What do we think? Like, what should we add? Should we add more paprika or should we not?
Yeah.
Or things like that, where I just feel like it feels more together and more purposeful when you're kind of collaborating
Yeah.
versus, I don't know, just doing it by yourself, which obviously isn't a bad thing. And I think there is a part of Hygge that's just that cozy aspect, but
Yeah.
that intentional togetherness with people, I think especially if it's dark or light out like 24 hours a day, just feels maybe even more important, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. But
Yeah, because I think, yeah, it's definitely that balance, but I
yeah.
think for me especially, it was like I'm definitely introverted, so the idea of like, oh, let me do all these things with other people, but it doesn't have to be this grand event. It
Yeah.
could just be
Yeah.
like you and your husband or me and my sister are like, yeah, we're gonna do this like thing together and just like enjoy the time.
Yeah, I have a friend that has a really good phrasing for that, which is hosting versus hospitality. Whereas
Mhm.
in hosting, it can feel like the house has to be perfect and everything has to be like, I don't know, like some in-law is coming over for something, like the 1990s vibe of things.
Yeah,
But then hospitality is just inviting somebody into life with
your
you. And
space.
I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's also very in connection with these, is just doing life together versus having to like impress to have somebody over.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So the next one is equality. So I put volunteering in your community, or maybe even just creating resources for your community,
Yeah.
I think can be really good. For gratitude, I think we kind of, this might sound really like cheesy, but like really telling the people in your life that you love them and actually thank them. Because I think we can just kind of get in the rut of doing the day to day and just kind of going through the motions. And like, I feel like society has made this whole big thing of like, to say I love you is like so big, but I'm like, I tell my friends I love them. I tell, you
Yeah.
know, not like some rando on the street, but I like just be
Yeah.
like generous with your words, I think is the takeaway that I'm trying to make.
Yeah,
And
and
go ahead.
oh, and one other thing that I've heard, sorry, I keep butting in, I feel
No,
like I
I
just, like,
love it.
um We also say the same word for different things. So like I love pizza and I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And in other cultures, there's different words for love depending on what you're talking about. And I
Yeah.
think that's also a thing that can make it feel so aggressive to like say I love you to a friend. But then it's like, just because you're saying that also to your spouse or also to your parent. But I think also like in context, it's different because like I
Yeah.
don't love pizza the same amount that I love my husband. Like, you know what I mean? So
I hope not.
I mean, I really do. I am Italian, but not to that level.
But yeah, I think just again, and the other little bit that I put on this is to just like really enjoy the small moments with your loved ones, which is
Yeah.
obviously the takeaway of all of this.
Yep.
The next principle is comfort, and I just wrote 2% cozier. Like that
Yeah.
is our point of 2% is just finding those little moments of extra comfort in your life and really just seeking those out and enjoying them when you get to those moments. Probably the biggest one of Hygge is the togetherness principle. And so I put just making sure that you're putting time into your relationships and making them a priority. Like, don't take your friends for granted. I think it can be sometimes easy of you only spend time with your partner or you only spend time with your family, but your friends are very much
Yeah.
important as well. And even in America, like we may not even put the focus on family, like we just kind of focus on work or school. But your loved ones are really vital to your happiness. So making
Yeah.
sure that you find that balance. Like it's hard. I get it. Our
Same.
jobs
Yeah.
work us to the bone
Yeah.
a lot of the time. But I think stepping away and leaving work at work, if you can, obviously there's a lot of jobs where you can't do that, but at least maybe once a week where you're like, I'm putting my work aside, I'm present with my friends or family just so we can enjoy this time together. The next principle is harmony. So I put to just to be mindful of other people's needs.
Right.
Like I'm the friend, like I don't super love being out late or being in loud spaces. So I really appreciate if someone's like, hey, like we can do this thing during the day, or, hey, it's kind of loud here. Do you want to like maybe go outside? Like those small things and being thoughtful, I think is really
Yeah.
it like those moments stand out to me about my friends if they notice that. And I try to do the same thing of like, hey, I can tell you're kind of sad today. Like, do you want to do something to like feel a little bit better? And I just wrote check in on your people, right? It's easy to just like, if you don't hear from someone and, oh, they're good, they're fine, but you just never know what someone's going through.
Yep.
And then the other principle is truce. So I put this because I think in America, I think in general, but especially in America right now, like things are really tense a lot of the times, and you just obviously don't know where someone is coming from. So I just put be open minded and try to have thoughtful and respectful conversations. I think
Yeah.
that's the best way to learn from others. And then the last principle is shelter. And so I put try to create a safe and happy home for yourself and for others to visit so you can have that little
Cute.
togetherness aspect.
Ah, I love that. I read that book so long ago that there's some of those aspects that you were just talking about that I very specifically remembered, and some of them I didn't. But I feel like they all kind of blend together in a really nice way of
Yeah.
just creating that life where, again, it's that hospitality versus hosting, just
Yeah. And that's a good way of
being a
looking at it.
hospitable life type of a deal.
Yeah. And I think too, if you try to sit down and you're like, oh, I have to make sure I'm doing these
Yeah.
10 things perfectly, or I have to have my however many cakes it was. Like,
Yeah.
it's not about this, again, this big overhaul. But I think when
Yeah.
you are feeling those moments of overwhelm or you're feeling stressed out, to just take a pause of like, okay, how can I recenter myself? What is something I can do in this moment to find a little bit of that extra comfort, that extra
Yeah.
coziness? Maybe it's, putting your favorite show on that we've talked about, or
Yeah.
it's a new book that you want to try, but whatever it is, just try to like have those moments where you just take a beat, recenter, and it's going to be
Yep.
okay.
Yep, yep, I totally agree, and I feel like it's also like those cakes are like the size of a cookie, and so I think that's the
Mhm.
other thing too, where it's like, I think we can imagine, like, I have to make 7 full cakes for Fika, and it's like, no, you have to, like, eat a single cookie, like,
Yeah.
and so there's things like that too, where, like, I think I am even I think a reason that cozy is important to me is because I do feel just in my personality, I'm an achiever type
Yeah.
personality. And I think it's important to remember that balance is important. And I do think that there are, like, I do believe that there's a God-given gift of hospitality, but I think there's also ways that we can learn that and like
Hmm.
have it not feel so overwhelming to where it's like, okay, we pass or fail. And that's another reason why we wanted to talk about this in January is like, it's not a pass or fail type of a grade score for Fika or for Hygge,
Yeah.
but just adding little aspects into this year, I think is also a good way to start the year too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we wanted it to be something of like, you can do this in small steps. You don't have to,
Yeah.
again, oh, I'm going to the gym every day, or I want to lose this many pounds. Like, it's a very easy way of incorporating more of these ideals into your daily life.
Love it.
And hopefully, we bring a little bit of that comfort with this podcast as well.
This is unrelated but related, but although it has all of its drama with it, the Spotify Wrap just came out, and there was
Oh, yeah.
111 people who we were.
I
If you're one of those, we appreciate you so much. If you're not, we still appreciate you so much.
know.
But it was just so cute to like, I don't know. Sometimes, like, even though like the podcast is out there, and we're going to in a few months reach a year, which is wild, but I think it's also just something where, yeah, it's just nice, like in connection and in the hygge of it. We just appreciate and we love all of you. And we're so glad that
Yeah.
you're here in the blanket fort with us.
I know. It's been so fun. And yeah, keep commenting, not to be like, oh, we need
Yeah.
engagement, but we just love hearing from you guys,
Yeah.
truly. It really makes our day when you message us, when you comment.
Yeah.
We just love hearing about your cozy little lives. And we're all just on this little like floating rock together. We might as well
Yeah.
make it as cozy as we can.
Yes. Love it. Love it so much. Oh, so should we get into 2% cozy as a good transition
Yeah.
still in the blanket fort and
Yeah, I
chilling?
was gonna suggest, since we were talking about cozy
Yeah.
detectives, if we want to start with theirs
Yes.
first this time.
Love it. Love it.
So we have Callie's Cozy Bookshelf, and she got her mini space heater out from storage.
Yes, love it. I will say it's hard to see on camera, but a mini space heater is what gave me my scar on my forehead.
Oh no,
As a
did
kid,
you burn
like,
yourself?
nah, girl, I pulled a whole thing down on myself and like hospital visits and all that.
Oh
So don't stand
no.
on it. I mean, seems obvious, but to me as a little children, it was not obvious. So,
Oh no.
uh,
Well, I'm glad you're better.
yeah, it's all fine. It's just so funny. I do
And
think it's
then,
actually super cozy, but
yeah, for sure. I took a shower earlier and had mine on while I was in the
right?
shower. So, and it's again that little extra bit of coziness. And then we have BW loves to read. So we've got some bookish cozy
Yeah.
detectives today. And she had pie for breakfast. And I love that so much.
Yes.
Live the best life. Let us know what kind of pie it was.
Ah. Oh, love that. I made pumpkin pie for the first time this year, and I'll tell you what, I ate
Ooh,
that all over the place. It's so good.
so good.
Aw. Love a little bookish peeps hanging out in the blanket fort with us. Like,
Yes.
actually, the background of yours is all books, so it's perfect. And it's
I
real.
know
It's
we
not
need to
fake.
we need to at least I need to do another book case file. I'm like, it's been so
Yeah.
long.
Wow, it really has. I didn't realize that. It really has. What's your 2% cozy this week?
So mine, I didn't do this intentionally with my case file, but it's not another person, but mine involves my dog Rosie. So it's so funny. They say of like a dog is very similar to its owner. I feel like in regards of our love for Christmas, we are very similar because whenever I put my
Oh,
trees up, she loves being on the tree skirt and just like chilling under the Christmas tree. And so
cute.
she will go on like our evening potty time or like an evening walk. And so we come back, and a lot of the times I'm like, oh, it's time to like wind down and go to bed. But that's like when she's her most like energetic and she really
Aw,
wants to play. And so I've been trying to like, okay, let's play for a little bit. But her favorite thing is to play underneath a Christmas tree. And so like she gets to enjoy
cute.
it. I get to enjoy the lights and being down there. So that's my 2%.
Aw. Does she have a favorite toy as well, or?
Yeah, she really loves, which I ended up not doing this one. I did Arthur instead, but I do eventually want to do a lamb chop case file, but she loves her little lamb chop toys.
That's so cute. Oh, I love lamb chop. I
Yeah.
feel like that's one of those ones where I didn't watch it as much, but it is like ingrained in my childhood as if I watched it like all the time. You know what I mean? Like I remember it
Yeah.
like as much as that.
And
But
I don't know what it is, but like the dog toy industry has really capitalized off of lamb chop. Like I always see them at pet stores, and they like she has a lot of different variations. She has like Santa lamb chop, she has Easter bunny lamb chop, she has Halloween lamb chop that's purple.
oh my gosh,
Like,
get it.
yeah.
Does she play with them at specific times of year? Like, is that part of like the decorations? Is there
Yeah.
specific lamb chop?
Yeah,
Stop.
we're
That's
like,
so
oh,
cute.
kind of. Although the purple one is like bigger than she is.
I love. Have you seen the? It was a reel, is how I saw it, but I'm sure it's on TikTok too, where the dog is holding something and it's like magically like the feet are like just perfectly covering his eyes, and he's like, "Where did the world
Oh,
go?"
no,
He just
I
like
haven't seen that.
picks
So
up the toy
cute.
backwards. She's like, "Put the toy down, you'll be fine," and he's like, "Ah."
Oh, I love
Oh,
dogs so
I
much.
know. My husband's always like, "That's just like your whole like demographic." Like if I'm just like laughing at something, it's typically like some dog, especially like a husky, just being like, "Rah, rah, rah." Like they just make me
Aw.
laugh so much.
What's your 2%?
Mine is a somewhat throwback. And so I remembered every single word. I'm very proud of it. Let go. I found, it was on Amazon. I wish it was somewhere else, but that's how I found it. But I got an NSYNC record.
Oh my gosh. It's very on brand for you.
I love it. I had this CD. I was obsessed with it. And it's so interesting because in my mind's eye, I like got this CD as soon as it came out, but there ain't no way because this CD would have come out in 2000 or sorry, 2000. No, that's the whole point. 1998 is when this came
Oh,
out.
wow.
Crazy. So I got the record. It's the NSYNC Christmas Home for Christmas CD / vinyl. So I'm
Oh my
obsessed with it.
gosh.
Put it over my face so you can see.
So
That also it has 2 vinyls because their CD is just too cool. Also, JC for life. He was my favorite from the get
Aw.
go, and he's in the middle in this. And I was like, see, they knew. They knew. It's also really funny because Joey has a Superman like necklace
Oh
on. I'm
my
like,
gosh.
dude,
That's so
nothing
funny.
says 90s, just like whoever styled them. I hope it's them that styled them because I'm obsessed. But you can totally tell that at least for this version that I got, I think what they did, unless this comes out. Does this come out? No way. Oh my gosh, it does. Obsessed. Okay. I thought this was stuck on the inside, but it's not.
Oh, little
The
artwork.
little slide out paper with
Oh,
the
has the lyrics on it?
no, it's you'd
Oh.
think it would be the lyrics.
Yeah, I
It's
just
just
saw the
being
teeny
produced by,
tiny.
yeah.
Yeah, the teeny tiny font, which that is honestly the greatest travesty of not really greatest travesty of current times. There's a lot more, but
Yeah.
it's very sad that music doesn't come with the lyrics anymore. Like I do appreciate like when Spotify will have the lyrics because as someone who's like musically challenged, I never know what the heck they're saying in songs.
Right?
Until I look at the lyrics. I'm like, oh, that's what they're saying. Okay.
Yeah, I'm much better at like remembering the dance moves than the lyrics. But I just realized on this little slide out, that's a little Christmas message from each of them. Stop.
Aw.
It's so cute. I never knew that. I will read that later off pod because I'm obsessed with it.
Cute.
But I have remembered every single song and every single word. So even their little ad libs. So I'm obsessed with it. I was having so much fun. I was just dancing around, listening to my record like a crazy
what I'm
lady.
hearing is we're gonna have like a bonus mini-sode of Joy performing the entire NSYNC Christmas album.
I mean, not gonna lie, I could. I had a VHS of their dance too, and they if y'all remember that, if anybody Cozy Detective was obsessed with NSYNC like I was, there was a VHS that you could put in, and they would teach you their dance moves. And then, Mom, I know you're listening. I still don't forgive you. I had it.
Oh,
I know. I will keep. I mean, I forgive her. It's fine, but like, I had an NSYNC book.
mm-hmm.
And homegirl wrote, like, in case I think I took the book or I was going somewhere, she wrote our phone number on it. And I was so mad. I was like, Mom, the quality of my book is tainted now. I was so mad.
Yeah, but if you had lost it and someone called you and found it, you would have been very thankful.
I guess that's true. But I still can't imagine Joy ever losing anything.
No,
from
I get
NSYNC.
that.
I still have it. I still have that book somewhere too. I'm not gonna show y'all my home phone number, but I don't have I have one now. It's an old one. But anyway, yes, NSYNC for life. If you're Backstreet Boys, I'm sorry that I don't love your team as much as I love my team, but Team NSYNC, specifically JC.
Oh man, so
that's
cute.
my coziness. I'm living my best life. I'll tell you what.
You really are. I love how happy it makes you, because it makes me happy. But thank you for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Blanket Fort Files Pod. Keep sending in your 2% cozier. We love hearing from you guys. Subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and join us next week in the Blanket Fort. We're going to discuss the coziness of winter period films.
I'm excited.
That sounded way more dramatic than it's going to be.